The Economic and Organized Crime Office had gathered credible intelligence regarding a criminal enterprise that had been operated by the former Chief Executive Officer of the National Food and Buffer Stock Company Limited, Mr. Hanan Abdul Wahab. Initial estimates put the amount of money pilfered by Mr. Abdul Wahab and his collaborators at the time at around 58 million Ghana cedis, far in excess of the 49 million suspected to have been stolen by Mr. Edubohe and his co-accused persons. I call the criminal enterprise operated by Abdul Wahab and his collaborators at Buffer Stock the rumble in the jungle, not only because of the huge amount of money at stake, but because of the fact that while food suppliers were wailing and gnashing their teeth due to failure to pay them for supplies to the Buffer Stock, and while our school kids were being denied nutrition under the school feeding program for lack of funds, Mr. Abdul Wahab and his collaborators were busy lawlessly looting funds meant for the program. That is jungle behavior. The informal meaning of the word rumble is to discover illicit activity or the perpetrator of the illicit activity. Through painstaking investigations, the EOCO discovered this illicit criminal enterprise run by a gang of corrupt, lawless officials at the Buffer Stock Company. On June 25, 2025, the EOCO conducted a coordinated operation based upon their initial investigations, which resulted in the arrest of Mr. Abdul Wahab, former Chief Executive of Buffer Stock, his wife Faiza Seydou Wuni, and then James Atieku, the Buffer Stock Manager for the Northern Sector, who was based in Tamale. The operation also led to the arrest of Emmanuel Atta, Head of Corporate Affairs of NAFCO. The arrest followed initial intelligence and assessment by EOCO, who suggested that while serving as CEO of Buffer Stock between 2017 and 2024, Mr. Abdul Wahab colluded with his wife, Faiza Seydou Wuni, Richard Sam, Head of Finance, Bismarck Owusu Boache, Finance Department, and Emmanuel Atta, Corporate Affairs Manager, and others to create an elaborate criminal enterprise that was used to steal and launder public funds from the Buffer Stock Company. Within the period between 2017 and 2024, Mr. Abdul Wahab, in concert with Richard Sam Asante and Bismarck Owusu Boache, orchestrated the transfer of 78,269,084 Ghana cedis and 4 pesos from the bank accounts of Buffer Stock Company to a private company linked to Hanan Abdul Wahab, his wife, and staff of Buffer Stock at Republic Bank and EcoBank. Evidence shows that the funds were instantly retransferred to companies owned by Abdul Wahab himself and companies and entities owned and associated with him and his wife. Similarly, evidence shows that between 2017 and May 2029, Abdul Wahab Similarly, evidence shows that between December 2017 and May 2019, Hanan Abdul Wahab transferred 5,495,780 Ghana cedis and 36 pesos from Buffer Stock company accounts to 2 bank accounts belonging to Aludiba Enterprise, one of his companies, at Republic Bank and ABSA. Aludiba Enterprise is not a registered supplier of Buffer Stock Company. Hanan Abdul Wahab between 2019 to January 2022 also orchestrated some suppliers to transfer an amount of 11,998,830 Ghana cedis, 48 pesos, to an entity owned by a staff of Buffer Stock, and later instructed the staff to retransfer the funds to a company owned and run by himself and his wife. In July 2022, investigations found that Hanan Abdul Wahab transferred 251,050 cedis from Buffer Stock accounts to another bank account at Republic Bank belonging to Energy Partners, a company co-owned by Hanan Abdul Wahab and Emmanuel Atta, the head of corporate affairs of Buffer Stock Company. Energy Partners is not a service provider for Buffer Stock. The evidence gathered so far shows that they ran this criminal enterprise under the pretext of supplying food items to schools under the school feeding program. Ladies and gentlemen, 7 entities linked to Abdul Wahab and his wife were used as vehicles to receive and to launder the proceeds of crime from Buffer Stock Company. The money laundering took the form of property acquisitions across the country, including real estate and luxury goods using the same entities. The entities in question are as follows: Alkani Enterprise, Aludiba Enterprise, Energy Partners, Farhauser Ventures, Farhauser Company Limited, and Aludiba Foundation, and also, and more importantly, Sortina Enterprise, owned by a third party connected to the couple. So Sortina was owned by Atiku Apau, who was then the Northern Sector Manager of Buffer Stock. Bank documents obtained by EOCO revealed that within the period that the suspects operated this criminal enterprise, Mr. Abdul Wahab and his wife and their entities became the largest depositors at Republic Bank, and the branch was at Labone branch. Investigations established that in 2018, Sortina Enterprise, an entity owned by James Atiku Apau, applied to become a licensed supplier to the Buffer Stock Company. This application was approved by his boss, Hanan Abdul Wahab, knowing very well that the approval placed James Atiku Apau in a conflict of interest situation because he was the manager of Buffer Stock in the Northern Sector. He formed the company and became a supplier to Buffer Stock. So on account of that alone, I can succeed on a charge of using public office for profit. Documentary evidence from bank accounts of Buffer Stock revealed that between 2018 and 2024, Buffer Stock transferred a total of 78,369,082 cedis and 4 pesos to Sortina Enterprises bank account at EcoBank and Republic Bank respectively. The payments were supposedly to pay for food supplies made by Sortina to schools under the school feeding program. Verified records, including way bills and store receipt vouchers from Buffer Stock, however, indicated that only 27,389,872 cedis out of the payments to Sortina were backed by supplies. There is no evidence whatsoever that the remaining 50,879,021 cedis and 4 pesos paid to the enterprise was backed by food supplies or any service rendered to Buffer Stock. A review of Sortina bank account revealed that the bulk of the payments which Buffer Stock made to Sortina Enterprises bank accounts, about 98% of the over 78 million, were instantly retransferred to Alkani Enterprise, Farhauser Ventures, and other entities owned and controlled by or affiliated to Hanan Abdul Wahab and Faiza Seydou Wuni, his wife. Under interrogation, Mr. Atiku Apau stated that although some of the funds received into Sortina's EcoBank and Republic Bank accounts were for the few genuine supplies backed by way bills and store receipt vouchers, in most instances, no supplies were made, but he noticed that Buffer Stock kept making payments to his company, Sortina Enterprise. He also admitted that other third-party companies, which our investigations have established to be licensed buying companies or suppliers to Buffer Stock, also made several payments into Sortina's account. He said he neither knew the promoters of these companies, nor did his company have any business dealing with them. He had no explanation as to why millions were transferred into his company's bank account, but observed that those payments, whether from Buffer Stock or from third parties, were made into Sortina's account on the instruction of his boss, Hanan Abdul Wahab. He further explained that whenever such payments were deposited in Sortina's account, he was prompted by Hanan Abdul Wahab to expect the transfer and was later instructed on where to move or retransfer the funds. In effect, Sortina became a conduit for Hanan Abdul Wahab and his wife to steal Buffer Stock funds without easy detection. Transaction analysis of Sortina's Republic Bank account and entities used as vehicle to launder the proceeds of the criminal enterprise established by Hanan and his wife corroborated the claims made by Mr. James Atiku Apau. For example, a review of some of the retransfers of the funds paid to Sortina Enterprise by Buffer Stock Company revealed as follows. From Sortina Enterprise to Hanan Abdul Wahab, 60,179,137 Ghana cedis. Sortina Enterprise to Alkani, 23,913,964 Ghana cedis and 90 pesos. From Sortina Enterprise to Fahauza, 500,000 Ghana cedis. Sortina Enterprise to Chain Homes, 550,000, making a total of transfers that we have we've tracked, from across the bank accounts of 40,493,102 Ghana cedis and 15 pesos. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as I have indicated, the proceeds of crime were used by the couple to acquire a lot of high-end luxury properties and, especially real estate across the country.
Comment section one. No first time I ever subscribe button so. Makramo.